This is the Invite Health Podcast, and I am Amanda Williams. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about some fun science. We are going to talk about nucleotides. This is something that comes up on a regular basis. People come into the store and they see our nucleotide complex and they say, what in the world is that? So I find myself explaining it on a pretty frequent basis. So I figured I would try and explain it in very detailed fashion for you so you understand why it's beneficial, especially during this time when we have the concerns of making sure that we are doing right by our immune system. And with this ongoing pandemic, we do want to make sure that we are taking the appropriate steps and measures to enhance our immune defenses. And the nucleotide complex that we offer is a really nice way to go about doing that. So we're going to talk about the nucleotides today, but before we get started, just want to remind you to subscribe to the Invite Health Podcast today. You can leave us a review. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. All of the information on today's episode will be linked in the episode description, and you can visit invitehealth.com/podcast for more information. So let's get right to it, and let's talk about what in the world is a nucleotide. This isn't something that we've just made up. This is actually something that's in the body. So nucleotides are your basic building blocks of our DNA and our RNA. So most people have seen the double helix, as they describe it, of our genes. So the DNA, which is the deoxyribonucleic acid, contains nucleotides. So we look at these different nucleic acids and then we recognize the way that they are working. They function as these primary genetic information centers inside of our cell, and they're responsible for different aspects of the way that the human body functions, including metabolism. Also, when we look at the transportation of critical chemical signals, when we think critical chemical signals, we're thinking within the immune system itself. And in order to support our immune defenses, the nucleotides work by enhancing the rate at which your healthy immune cells and your healthy gut cells repair themselves. Now, this is really an important factor, because if we don't have enough of these nucleotides, then it's kind of like having the motherboard of a computer that is not functioning. And everyone has probably experienced computer problems at some point in time throughout their lives. So we know that the nucleotides are responsible for the signals sent to the immune system to fend off pathogens. And when we're talking pathogens, we are thinking about things like bacteria, parasites, and current to today, we are talking about viruses. So pathogens certainly can be destructive in the human body. What we know is that nucleotides play this functional role in terms of helping our cells with the repair and recovery. So there's a lot of technical science that goes behind your nucleotides. And when you think about being that main building block of your nucleic acids, the RNA and the DNA, and having to have all of these components together in order for the cells to be able to function. So you have these different nucleic acids. You have adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, and those are part of the DNA. Now, in RNA, you have the following base pairs or nucleic acids, and so DNA has the four nucleic acids, and then you look at the RNA, and that contains adenine, guanine, cytosine, and uracil. So it's basically just one of those nucleic acids is different from the DNA. The DNA has thymine, whereas the RNA has uracil. So that's the main difference. Now, this can get very, very complex very, very quick. So I'm going to try and keep it a bit more basic for the sake of understanding how it is that this nucleotide is actually working. So we're looking at the substance inside all of our cells that carry basically our genetic blueprint. This plays an essential role when we think about our immune system and when we think about cells that have rapid turnover, which would include the cells within the gut and the immune cells. So they're continuously turning over new cells, which means they're continuously getting this new computer programming that occurs. So when we look at nucleotides and the immunity, in order to stay healthy, it is really critical for the body itself to be able to respond in a very fast mechanism in order to deal with whatever foreign pathogen is trying to invade the body. So very complex stuff, but I'm going to try and break it down as easy as I can so you understand when you're utilizing the nucleotide complex just how intricate this actually is in terms of helping to support your health. But we are going to take a quick break, and when we get back, I'll tell you a bit more about nucleotides.
This podcast is brought to you by InviteHealth.com. For over 20 years, Invite Health has provided premium quality supplements and expert advice you can trust. Now, first-time customers can enjoy an exclusive offer. Visit InviteHealth.com/podcast or click the link in this episode description. That's InviteHealth.com/podcast for your exclusive offer on Invite Health products. Invite Health offers the resources you need to make important decisions about your health. Chat live with degreed healthcare professionals, get product information, and find retail locations near you at InviteHealth.com. You can also learn about our new genetic testing program and our exclusive Invite Fitness Wellness program. Follow Invite Health on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast today. Now back to our episode.
And welcome back. Let's talk about the nucleotides in more detail. Let's understand how it is that these are working to support our immune system. And I also want to talk about some clinical research done with nucleotide supplementation. So we talk about our immune defenses. We know that the cells within our GI tract, the immune cells, have rapid turnover. We want to make sure that that's a very efficient process in order to make sure that we are having that efficient process under times of stress, physical, emotional stress, then that sufficient availability of nucleotides on hand is really key to that. And if we don't have enough nucleotide in the system, then things such as viruses can proliferate and basically become extremely problematic. So if we don't have enough nucleotides, then we can have a situation where we have more severe symptoms or a prolonged illness. Now, there's many other factors to this, because remember, your innate and your adaptive immune systems rely on a whole series of vitamins and minerals as well. So this is why when you look at different factors in terms of virulence of a particular virus, meaning how infectious is it and how symptomatic do people become, how gravely ill can someone become, you have to look at all of these different factors. We have to look at, do we have enough nucleotide on hand? Do we have enough zinc? Do we have enough selenium in the body? Is there enough vitamin C, vitamin D, magnesium? These are all critical components to maintaining the immune system's ability to counteract any type of an infectious agent. So when you look at dietary nucleotides, you have to recognize where they usually are coming from. And oftentimes we can look at different foods. So animal products oftentimes is one way that people can be exposed to some of these natural nucleic acids. Now, what we understand is that when we come into this world and we're thinking about, breastfed babies, things along that line, human breast milk in particular is very high in nucleotides. And so this is why you're starting to see different infant formulas even have nucleotides added in as a benefit. You see probiotics, you see DHA, which is a primary omega-3. So the food world's starting to catch on to the importance of why nutrients matter, and they are starting to actually put these added nutrients into baby formulas. So you see the omega-3s being added in now. You can find baby formula that has DHA, as I mentioned. You can also find baby formulas that will contain nucleotides because we want to try to enhance the immune system of a growing child. We want to be able to optimize the beneficial intestinal bacteria. This is all key. Now, when we look at supplementation of nucleotides, this is where a lot of that interest was gained because people were recognizing that nucleotides across the board were so effective when it came to cell function. Remember, we go back to the computer example. We think about a motherboard, and if that crashes, what can actually occur? Well, your system's not going to run. Well, if we don't have enough nucleotides in the cell to that motherboard, then that cell is not going to function the way that we need it to. We know that nucleotides are considered an immunomodulator, meaning that they modulate the expression of different inflammatory reactions in the body, in particular when we think about the intestines. Why does that matter? Because we know that 70 to 80% of our immune defenses are located in the intestines. This is why when you're taking nucleotide supplementation, it's helping to enhance overall gut health, that intestinal health, and understanding the way that the nucleotides can actually reinvigorate the lining of the intestines. And you have these little finger-like projections in the intestines. They're called villi. It's those finger-like projections that are important for the absorption of key nutrients. Remember, we talk about all of the vitamins and minerals that are an integral part of maintaining our innate and adaptive immune system. Well, if our little villi, these finger-like projections, are not working properly, then we're not going to be absorbing properly. And we know that the nucleotides help those little finger-like projections, which is key. We also recognize that when we start to supplement with nucleotides, there's this whole host of different benefits. Now, I can personally speak to nucleotide supplementation myself because I have experience with utilizing nucleotides, and I'm going to share that with you, and then I'm going to talk about some of the actual clinical research studies that have utilized nucleotides and how beneficial they can be. But we're going to take a quick break, so we'll be right back.
This podcast is brought to you by InviteHealth.com. For over 20 years, Invite Health has provided premium quality supplements and expert advice you can trust. Now, first-time customers can enjoy an exclusive offer. Visit invitehealth.com/podcast or click the link in this episode description. That's invitehealth.com/podcast for your exclusive offer on Invite Health products. Invite Health offers the resources you need to make important decisions about your health. Chat live with degreed healthcare professionals, get product information, and find retail locations near you at invitehealth.com. You can also learn about our new genetic testing program and our exclusive Invite Fitness Wellness program. Follow Invite Health on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast today. Now back to our episode.
And welcome back. Let's talk a little bit more about nucleotides. So I said I had personal experience with dealing with nucleotide complex. This is our formulation that we offer at Invite Health. So it's a rare thing that I come down with any type of infections, which I consider myself very lucky for that. But it's a very rare thing. Now, many, many years ago, when I lived in Michigan, I used to get impacted by seasonal changes. So in the fall, as well as in the spring, I would get the common hay fever, as they used to call it. So clearly, my immune system would get revved up. Now, had I have known about nucleotides back then, maybe things would have been different. But about 2 years ago, I came down was working and I felt like I had kind of a scratchy throat. Just felt a little lethargic. You know how people feel when you're starting to come down with something. So I right away said, I'm going to get myself some nucleotide complex. And what I did is I finished that bottle in 3 days. So there's 30 pills in the bottle. So basically every day I was taking 10 capsules. And then after that, I had another bottle and I cut it back and I was taking about 5 pills a day for the rest of the time. But would you believe that in the morning when I woke up after taking the first 10 pills, and people may say, well, that's kind of excessive, but hey, there's a reason why. Remember, I'm trying to save my motherboard here. So I woke up in the morning and I was like, yeah, I feel really good. I feel super energetic. I don't have a scratchy throat. I don't feel lethargic. This is a great thing. But I'm also not naive, recognizing it can't be a one and done thing. I have to stick with this because whatever's trying to invade is not just going to quickly go away. It's still there. And because I got my motherboard running good, I'm fending it off. But if I stop what I'm doing, then that pesky little pathogen can raise havoc for my immune system. So continued that, never had any other symptom. And I'm not alone in this because I have so many people who have utilized the nucleotide complex that report that exact same thing. Now, I don't want you to think that this is only in the event that, you have an exposure to a particular pathogen or a virus. This is for multi-purpose. And the reason why I say that is when you look at the clinical research done, you will see across the board the way nucleotides in terms of supplementation have been shown to be effective for human health. So there was a study that came out and was published in the Nutrition Journal looking, and this was a double-blind placebo-controlled trial, and they were looking at people who had IBS, so irritable bowel syndrome, and they were looking if dietary nucleotide supplementation would have any type of an impact on them. So they took a group of folks who all had the primary diagnosis of irritable bowel syndrome, and they gave them nucleotide supplementation, and then they followed them over time. Now remember, this is a double-blind placebo-controlled. So that means one group was given the nucleotide complex, the other group was given straight placebo. And in conclusion of their study, what they found was that dietary nucleotide supplementation improved many of the symptoms of irritable bowel. So comparing that to the baseline of where these people started and then where they ended up, and they were looking at issues with abdominal pain, urgency of having to go to the bathroom, having issues with bloating, gas, all of the things that we know can go along with irritable bowel. And at their conclusion, they are suggesting that there is this true physiological effect on the gut. Well, it makes sense because we're in an area where we have to have this rapid turnover. We talked about the importance of those microvilli. So if those nucleotides are helping to support those microvilli, now the body can start to properly absorb the nutrients, which means you're going to better support the immune system, which means you are going to be able to better control inflammation. So it's all tied together. And that by itself is super cool. But now let's look at another study, and this was published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research, and they were looking at the physiological effects of, once again, nucleotide supplementation on resistance exercise stress in men and women. And they wanted to see, after exercise, and the body goes under extreme stress, so keep this in mind, when people are working out heavily, what can happen is you can actually weaken your immune system. Now, it's just a small window, but it is a window in which you are more prone to the potential infection of a bacteria or a virus. So they see this oftentimes in marathon runners right after a race. Within the first couple of days, they can come down with a cold. So they already understand the impact of exercise. While exercise is good, it can also create this shift, this temporary shift in the immune defenses. So I want to tell you about this study, but what we'll do is we'll just take a quick break and then we'll come back and I'll tell you more details on this study. We'll be back.
This podcast is brought to you by InviteHealth.com. For over 20 years, Invite Health has provided premium quality supplements and expert advice you can trust. Now, first-time customers can enjoy an exclusive offer. Visit invitehealth.com/podcast or click the link in this episode description. That's invitehealth.com/podcast for your exclusive offer on Invite Health products. Invite Health offers the resources you need to make important decisions about your health. Chat live with degreed healthcare professionals, get product information, and find retail locations near you at invitehealth.com. You can also learn about our new genetic testing program and our exclusive Invite Fitness Wellness program. Follow Invite Health on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast today. Now back to our episode.
And welcome back. So we're going to talk about this study, the physiological effects of nucleotide supplementation on resistance exercise stress in men and women. So they took a group of athletes. This was a double-blind trial. So this means one group is given placebo. The other group is going to be given nucleotide. They had them go and do their workouts. Now, mind you, what they're actually assessing for is different markers for inflammation. They're looking for stress markers such as cortisol, so they did blood levels. They were looking at creatine kinase. We know that that can go up if there's significant myocyte or muscle cell damage that is occurring. They were looking at their white blood cells, so they're looking at their neutrophil counts, their lymphocyte, their monocyte counts. And then they had them do this strenuous exercise, and then they repeated all of these tests. And they found that the group that was given nucleotides did much better when it came to the creatine kinase level. So they were finding less muscle damage. They were finding that the immune system activation was much more responsive in the group given nucleotide. So at the end of the day, what do we know? We know that the nucleotide complex can definitely be beneficial when it comes to the way that the body repairs itself and recovers. So here's another study that came out. This was in the Journal of Sports Medicine and Physical Fitness. Once again, looking at the effects of nucleotide supplementation on the immune system and metabolic response. This is high intensity exercise. This particular study, they were utilizing just men, and they were assessing, once again, different markers. Cortisol, they were looking at IgA, which is your secretory immunoglobulin A, and they were looking for creatine kinase, so once again looking and assessing for muscle damage, and they were able to conclude again that nucleotide supplementation blunts the response of all of these different hormones and other markers that are associated with physiological stress. So right now, most people are feeling an awful lot of stress, and everyone has concerns about their immune defenses. And yet most people have no idea what a nucleotide is, but yet the nucleotide is the main component for our DNA and our RNA. And if our cells are going to be able to recover and repair, they need to have nucleotides. So by taking nucleotide supplementation, it really functions on this multi-purpose mechanism in terms of having these immunomodulating effects. There was a study where they talked about that, the nucleotides as immunomodulators in clinical nutrition. This was in the Current Opinion of Clinical Nutrition Care Journal, talking about dietary nucleotides and how they have been missing from nutritional formulas for years, and that they are the building block of our RNA and our DNA. And in order for ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, this is the energy that is produced within the mitochondria of the cell. If we're lacking nucleotide, we are going to struggle with energy production and understanding the integral role that the intestines play in the immune system. So they, in this study, were proposing that dietary nucleotides should be considered within a pharmacological and metabolic framework to support the immune cells, as well as supporting the intestines, the heart, and all other cells throughout the body. So it's not like the science isn't out there. It's just science that is oftentimes overlooked, but we don't overlook it here at Invite Health. We recognize the importance of nucleotide complex. And that's why I have a lot of people who are maybe big time into, biking or running, and they take nucleotide complex every day, maybe 1 or 2 capsules, just to help to support that muscle recovery post-exercise, to help to support energy production. I have people who have concerns with autoimmune conditions and are concerned maybe they have irritable bowel, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. And they have found that once incorporating nucleotide complex into their daily supplementation routine, they really seem to have an overall sense of well-being. So right now that people have higher stress and have concerns about immune system support, nucleotide complex is a really great option. So hopefully I broke it down to you so you kind of understand what the nucleotides are actually doing. It is very complex. You'd have to take a whole semester at least of genetics to really understand how it is that these different nucleic acids are working in terms of the full functionality of each different cell. However, what we understand and what we can walk away from is that they are a primary reason for our existence and a primary reason for the way that our immune system works and operates and keeps us healthy. So that's all that I have for you for today. And I want to thank you for tuning in to the Invite Health podcast. Remember, you can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Make sure you subscribe. You can leave us a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. And we will see you next time for another episode of the Invite Health podcast.